Jay?
You gonna test it right now? There's no one.
Yeah.
So I just want to verify, I'm going to go to present now and share my tab, and then you'll approve the documents to come up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Chris, do you need Linda and I to come in to sign any of those documents? Like that tax form or anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Linda's going to sign the resolution first.
Yep.
And then when she brings it in or signs them, I'll give you a call and you can come in and sign the other ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Craig, I see you've joined us. Sorry about the multiple texts on the FM. It's the 90.3.
Yeah, I figured I'd wait and check with you tomorrow to see if there was another change.
I'm dealing with Tara on that. She was my go-between.
Yeah, the bigger the production, the more people you have to get involved. So,
Right.
Mike, this virtual thing ends on June 30th, right? Well, we have to go back to, or at least the online version won't be a legal version anymore unless they extend that executive order.
I think they did. I just heard today they extended it to July 30.
Okay.
So that would be, if we're still in stage, I think we play it by ear because our next one's not till the 27th. We have a little break.
That's right.
If we're in stage 5 by then, we can have, but if we're still in 4, then you can only have 10 people indoors. And that doesn't make for a very big crowd.
Yeah.
We can have the board meeting at your picnic or your barbecue for the board. Let's do it outside.
That's a good idea. As long as we're social.
Miss seeing you guys.
I know.
Well, you can always sign on for another 6 years if this leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
Not that much.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that much.
I can always visit like Tom.
I'm going to be in the UP on July 27th, so you may have to do that one in person anyway.
you don't want to try to run it remote from the UP?
I don't know where we're going. We might not. It might work, but I don't know.
It's funny because somebody today said that there was a school that was thinking about trying to get to a place where you could have a board meeting in person. So like actually going to up in Traverse City or a UP that's already in stage 5, but that's a stretch. You wouldn't want us up there ruining your vacation, Jay.
If I'm up north, I don't want to do business. All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody. And at this time, I'd like to declare the public hearing related to the 2021 proposed budget to be open, and there'll be times for the public to discuss it a couple times throughout the meeting. But at this time, if you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time roll call vote, or excuse me, roll call, please.
Okay.
And she froze on
Be
us.
storming at her house.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
She's frozen out.
I'll make a valid attempt here.
All right.
Mike Bauer,
Present.
Jared Clement,
Here.
Chris Rabish,
Present.
Nicole Jones is absent, Paul Palmaville,
Here.
Mark Kuchar,
Present.
and Linda Anderson was present until
Yeah.
she froze.
We'll call her president this time. Or at least at the start of the meeting. All right, thank you. President's comments, well, it's officially summer and it's here with reckless abandon. So it's been quite stifling. At this time, additions, deletions, changes to the agenda.
I'd like to add to the consent agenda, item I, the approval of employment of Carla Merritt as superintendent secretary.
Okay. We have
Support.
one to add to the consent agenda. Any other additions, deletions? Okay, seeing none. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Or excuse me, I'm sorry. Approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, agenda carries. Community comments. Do you have anybody who want to comment on the district or on the budget that's coming? Got anybody, Jay?
No, there are none.
All right, thank you. I see none. Again, as I stated, the public hearing is open. Now the consent agenda.
I think
We have
we
a
let
motion.
them present, I think we gotta let them present the
Oh.
proposed budget right now.
They doing the proposal now? Okay.
Yep, for the 2021. Yep.
All right, Chris, is that you, I assume?
Yep, I was trying to get unmuted. I was having problems. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so before you see the 1920 general fund budget. At the end of the year, it's more of a, we come in where we come in. Of course, this year with COVID, we've had some major swings that we weren't prepared. Well, you can't be prepared for both directions. One of the things that we did see in our revenue for local was we had a loss of property tax. That was made up in our state revenue though. We also had some small loss of your athletic gates, some participation fees, some minor things that we see, in the last quarter that we won't. We also did receive a summer reading grant. So that was good for our elementary buildings. I know that they're already working with those kids. As we move down to the expenditures, for the most part, the majority of our changes were one-time affected items for certain COVID savings. You know, we didn't have people in the building, so our utilities were a little bit less. Our buses weren't running every day, so we saved in fuel. Some of the one-time things that substitutes, we didn't have substitutes that we had to pay. So we have some savings there. We also did have an uptick in some of the places for COVID-related technology. We needed to make sure that we had the software and the devices and the means that we needed to ensure that our students were educated through the pandemic and the closure. So when we get to the end, you see that we actually have a surplus in our general fund of about 360 that will roll into our general fund. We are still carrying a designation on our fund balance of 648,000 to ensure that the district does not go into the bad zone, the 5% with the state, where we have to do additional reporting and such. Having a little bit of a surplus did set our district up a little bit better going into next year than some districts have, because we know that we're going to see some funding loss next year. So it was a good thing to see, although we all would have preferred that we didn't have those one-time savings related to COVID. Moving on to the food service budget for 1920. We anticipated our food sales to be down because we have the CEP program, which is the Community Eligibility Program, that gave all of our elementary buildings free lunch. So all of our kids at the elementary ate free for breakfast and for lunch. And that ended up being a wonderful program. And we're excited to get to do that again next year. The state is running some numbers for us to see if maybe we can expand that program, but as of right now, we haven't got that information back yet. You see a large increase in the federal restricted funds, and that is related to the pandemic feeding. Our girls in food service, Sue Ross and her crew, did an amazing job making sure that those kids had food available to them throughout the closure. And we still have some working now through the end of June to make sure that that works out. The expenditure for supplies, because we have put out so much more food than we're used to putting out, is increased a little bit, but that actually created a surplus for us of about 60,000. So going into the end of the year, we're looking at a fund balance of about 148,000, 149,000 in food service. And we're definitely glad that our kids got to eat through the pandemic. Just a reminder to the board that there is a 3-month expenditure, 1/3 of the budget allowance in the food service budget. We're not there yet, but always something that we keep an eye on so that the state doesn't tell us that we have to spend down money. And finally, for 1920, we have the Student Activity Fund. As most of you will recall, the Student Activity Fund is driven by your fundraisers and your donations to specific groups. In the past, it's always been a trust fund, and last year, due to GASB 84, we had to move it over to a special revenue fund, but the numbers pretty much come off the same as they used to. You'll see it a little bit different in the audit also, but these funds do belong to specific groups that have raised the funds over the years. This is the first time that we've had to adopt a budget. We adopted it in June, and now we're amending it to the final. And going into 2021, this is where things get a little bit more dicey for us. Everybody's heard on the news the fear of what's going to happen. We know that the state aid fund at the state is hurting because the revenues are not coming in the way that they had hoped, because of the closures and all the businesses going down, and a lot of the state aid budget is based on sales tax and other things like that. People weren't out buying the way that they have been in the past. So we have been hearing that we are looking at a wide array of a decrease in our foundation allowance, but the one that we're hearing the most is $850 per student. And so our state revenue is expected to be down at least that. And we're also preparing for student loss coming out of such a crazy pandemic and how we had to educate our students. We need to make sure that we're prepared for loss going into next year. The federal and the interdistrict GSRP money is anticipated to be about the same as it was this year. We did get the CARES funds, which is the money that was part of the federal government stimulus. And so that is included in the federal money. That is a one-time only funding and is meant to help offset some of the expenditures that we did have or may have related to the COVID pandemic for cleaning or devices or whatever the district feels that they need to do. We also have some room rentals in our local revenue. The ISD upped their room rentals by 2 in our district. So that's great because then local parents are able to keep their kids local even if they're in the ISD program. So we like to see that. Moving into our expenditures, we are preparing for the negotiated contract and benefit changes are included in all of the lines. We also had a couple staffing retirements, and the board is set tonight to approve a reduction in staffing related to the Dean of Students. I do want to let you guys know that the Dean of Students reduction is included in this budget. That's necessary for the preparation of a very uncertain budget and shortfalls, but it also includes the cost of game day managers or game season managers. So one person would be chosen for the season, and that will allow a smooth transition, make sure that the coaches, the parents, the students are all getting what they need related to the athletics so that we don't see a fall in that. Because of having such a large state loss, we do currently see a deficit in next year's budget, bringing our undesignated fund balance down to $655. And again, that's related to all of the loss in students, the loss in per student funding, includes our CARES Act and the negotiated items.
Chris, could I interject something?
Absolutely.
Just to clarify on the AD, Dean of Students, Dwayne Van Dries will assume the athletic director position as he once had several years back. So the athletics will be overseen by Dwayne, and then the game day manager would do a lot of the nighttime stuff, which we've had in the past as well. Just wanted to clarify that.
Very good point. Going into next year's food service budget, our federal revenues are coming down significantly because we don't intend to do pandemic feeding. That actually ends on June 30th. And so we go back to a normal budget. Excuse me. The most of our federal money includes the elementary buildings being on CEP. So the food sales are pretty much just here at the high school and middle school. And going into next year, we are projecting a deficit of about $53,000. That is directly related to an increase in our capital projects because our fund balance is coming in decent in 1920. We are looking at possibly doing a couple projects that really need to be done in our food service department. We know that we have some older assets, some older ovens. One of the things specifically that we would like to consider is a walk-in cooler at Central. They are trying to have enough product for all of the students kept in two-door coolers. And so we'd like to see that happen. Obviously, we would move forward with bids and whatnot to see what that project would even cost. But we did want to hold those funds so that it is a possibility. And going into our student activity account for next year, this is really just a guess because we don't know what kind of fundraising will be done and we don't know what kind of trips or events will be held. So our revenue and expenditures at this point are pretty open to interpretation, but we went by the amount that we've done on average in the past. And that completes my portion of the budget presentation. Mr. View, would you like to add anything?
Chris, you did a very thorough job. I don't want to really add a whole lot other than next year there is a large uncertainty, and there's also talk of potentially proration in 1920 still, meaning they would take money away from our budget in this year's budget and then make the cuts for next year. So I'm hearing that could happen. I don't know if it is going to happen, but I do know that they could do that and take money from both this year and next year. And right now we don't have a proration built into our 1920 budget. So it would have to be absorbed in 2021.
That is a very good point. Thank you for pointing that out because it is not currently built in. So if we do see that happen when we get our August state aid on August 20th, that they prorated us for our year ending June 30th, we will have to react. Also, the 2021 budget, what they are telling us is very undefinite until they can balance or get through their budget and know where they stand, which we won't see until the fall. And so our numbers we're likely to see an early amendment this year on the budget.
And I think the 850 is one of the reasons we discussed going, because some people are saying 650. I think the 850 gives us some cushion, even if there potentially is a proration this year. So I think we've set ourselves up with a big enough proration to potentially offset maybe a proration in this year. So I think we've covered that a little bit, but I mean it could get worse depending on what they really come up with.
Any questions?
All right, nobody has any questions. Thank you, Chris. You too, Mike. Is there any other comments from the public? Jay, has anybody chimed in where they have questions on this?
Sorry, no comments.
All right, thank you, Jay. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, the consent agenda.
I think you need to close the public hearing right now on the budget, now that there's no questions.
I think that was going to happen before the non-consent.
Yeah, right before non-consent.
Where I was told. So we'll give everybody a little bit of time to stew on it, and we'll close that in a little bit later. But thanks, Mike.
Right. Then I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda and pay bills totaling $637,282.26.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion on any of these items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, need a roll call vote, please. I see Linda. Is she still with us?
Mike Bauer?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Derek Klimick,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, and Mark Kuchar.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Motion passes. On to communication, Mr. View.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. I'd like to welcome Carla Merritt to the Pinconning Area School District. Just interviewed her recently, and she'll be becoming part of our central office staff. So excited to have her on board. Commencements. This has been a topic of discussion for the last 3 board meetings. We have two plans, Plan A and B. And since we're still in phase 4, we are looking at doing it in the parking lot over here in central office. We've had some good input, and if Kyle wants to chime in, he's free to do so. But I met with Tara, I met with Mike Stoneback, and a couple gentlemen that are going to help us with the FM transmission and our sound. And we will walk through a program to where we'll have speakers out in the grassy area. We'll have an FM transmitter set up so parents can listen to the commencement on 90.3 FM. And the process will be similar to a traditional commencement. We'll have a stage for the board. We'll have the students in the grass 6 feet apart. We'll go through our traditional introduction. The Val Sal speeches are going to be done. We'll have students sing the anthem. I believe it's Jenna Shafransky. We are then going to have the class link, and then once we get to the point where we're going to do the presentation of diplomas, we are going to have a stage up closer to the driveway, and we are going to have parents designated with a sign to come up. And when their graduate gets on stage, they'll have a certain area to take pictures. Once that graduate goes back and sits down, then the next parent can come up and do it. So we're coordinating it to where parents can leave their vehicle momentarily, get the picture, and go back and still continue our social distancing. I know Kyle's talked about we're buying 8x10. The district's going to provide a picture from our photo group that does our school pictures. And also we're going to try to, as we do this, at one point, we're going to have our students who are facing toward the fence and to the north. They're going to have to turn around so they can see their classmates as we play one of the songs. So I think we've got a pretty well scoped out. I know Mrs. Bishop has requested of any board members who want to attend on Thursday, 6:30, to let her know so she can have your cap and gowns ready. There is a day, Friday is the rain date, so to speak, same time, but on the 26th. So, Mr. Woodruff, you got anything to add?
Yeah, just that Gretchen Linsner is actually going to be singing the national anthem.
I'm sorry.
As far as communication, we have posted some things on the district website, the front page, the kind of things you need to know about graduation. And we've also posted the agenda for that day. So anybody that needs to take a look at that, you can take a look at the things that you need to know to get ready for that day, Thursday at 6:30. And then also the agenda to kind of see what the events of the day are going to look like. So
the program, he's going to have the program. Is the program on the website then?
Yes.
And School Messenger, we may be working out a few bugs with School Messenger, but the parents, we've been trying to communicate through the paper. We're going to make sure everyone gets communicated through because we're trying to do a walkthrough on Wednesday with the students so that they're familiar with it. So does any of the board members have any questions? I have one other thing to add, but do you have any other questions about the process or about your role in the ceremony? Okay. I do want to note that we have a community business that stepped up to offer our students. We're going to have a Kona Ice truck here. I don't know if anybody has heard of Kona Ice, but the generous owners of Bittersweet Quilt Shop have made this truck will be here from 5 until 8, and all the graduating seniors will get a free product from the Kona Ice truck, and that is going to be in the student parking lot, so it doesn't commingle with the crowd in this area. So we think we can keep that, before and afterward, and that way not be part of this actual gathering. That's a great, we've had a lot of people step up to help our seniors. I think this is a good gesture, and those are definitely a popular thing nowadays.
Yeah. And just one more thing to add about graduation. So right now, parents are going to be in their vehicles during the graduation, and right now it's one car per graduate, and anybody that needs to make a request for an additional vehicle just has to email me and just let me know, and then I can give the yes or the no. Spots are limited, so currently it's anybody that is going to email me, I'll get back to them right away and let them know what we can do.
Hey, Kyle, and on that,
Are you guys
go ahead, Mike.
Are you guys planning on having people to park them so that way they are orderly coming in and organized, or what's your plan?
Yep, we're going to have somebody out there, kind of guiding them, but it is going to be, there's no spots reserved for everybody, so it's going to be first come, first serve, but we will have people guiding parking to help direct traffic flow, but there's no reserved spots for anybody.
Yeah, just to make sure that they, are taking their spot, not 3 spots or something like that, to try and
Yep.
park a different way or something. So, okay.
Mark, did you have something to add?
No, it's all right. Well, actually what it was is, I know some seniors asked me at a party, one of the graduation parties this Saturday, about parents getting out of the car, and I think I saw the answer on Facebook, is that you'll allow one person to get out of the car when they come to get their diploma so they can take pictures.
Yes.
That's the case?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Because I couldn't answer it. I said, I'm not sure. I would hope so, but I don't know. I said, get a hold of Mr. Woodruff.
Kyle,
There you go.
Kyle, is there a plan for if other staff wanted to attend the graduation? What's the plan for that? I don't want to take a parent's space, but I'd like to be present.
Right. Well, Mike, what do you say to that?
I know there's other teachers.
I know
that
with
want
space is being limited. I mean, we got to let the families in there first. So it's going to be kind of a game day kind of decision, at least in my book.
We could potentially have staff park by Central Circle, and then if there's space within the parking lot, then the staff could pull closer up. If that would be my recommendation, is to have the staff park over by Central Circle area, and if there's room after we get all our parents parked, that they could pull up.
And then if that's the case,
we just can't have staff. Oh, go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that during the ceremony, I know there's just not enough, the numbers won't fit having staff out on the lawn with them. I'm wondering if the graduates go back to their vehicles, if the staff come out and are lining the stage or something of that nature, so they feel a little bit more of the process, and if they want to wear their cap and gown. I'm not saying you have to make a decision on that now, but something to consider, because I know the staff that typically attends, they want to attend again and be part of the process as to what they could. So whatever we can let them do, but that's your ballpark. Whatever you want to do with that, I'll let you tell my wife.
Yeah, it's just a little bit difficult, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want to have obviously parent parking spots being taken by staff members. If they can be, I want co-parents to be as close as they possibly can to the kids. And then, if kids have to go back to the vehicle, I guess I don't really see your vision with that. So they would go back, the kids would go back to the vehicle, and then staff would come on the stage and just.
Yeah, because I would think we'd be able to keep under 100 people at that time. But again,
right.
I'm definitely passing the buck on this one, because I will abstain from anything you've done, because I have a personal vested interest.
Right. I hear you. No dinner for you.
No, we're going to live stream it, and we're also going to have it on an FM dial. So, I mean, there's a chance to participate that way, but you know, with this 100-person thing, we're pushing that limit a little bit, but I think we're doing in good faith effort to stay within those realms. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
I have a
easiest-
question,
Yeah, and I
Kyle.
don't want. Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
Sarah.
my biggest thing is I don't want to push kids to go back to the cars. I want the kids
Yeah.
to be as involved as possible, you know. Go
So
ahead,
just to
Jared.
clarify, if they have divorced families or split parents, you want one of the parents to email you for permission?
Correct. Yep. Just to
Okay.
kind of let me know, because it's in Skyward. It does say if there's a second, family, but some of them don't. So it's kind of, I don't really know who is in that situation or not. So yeah, if they could get a hold of me, that's going to be the best way to guarantee that you have a second spot.
Okay.
And then
All right.
the only other comment I have with this commencement is I was just talking to somebody from another district earlier today, and they said they had like 160 graduates, and it took like 3 hours because it would take a minute or so for each person to come on the stage. They did it pretty much the same way we're talking about. So, they waited for one person to get back in the car, then they'd pull the next car up and they'd get out, get their picture. You're going to take a minute to 2 minutes for that to happen. So I'm just to stand around 100 people, I think as one person got off the stage, the next car could probably get out and start walking up the other side. Just because even if we take a minute with each graduate, you're talking over an hour just to hand out those diplomas.
Right.
So just the timing,
Right.
so just something to consider of how we can expedite that.
Yeah. And we've talked about possibly doing and like having like an on deck circle, almost like an on deck and in the hole. So if,
Yeah, there you go.
instead of giving a list of graduates of the order that they're going to be announced, and then having that on deck in the hole and having those particular squares for those particular families. So it puts a little bit more people outside of their vehicles, but it does allow for us to speed up that process a little more.
But just a thought that I didn't think about before until somebody mentioned it today with who I was with. So,
and just to interject, when we did a walkthrough, like I said last Friday, Mike Stoneback and Tara are thinking of we're going to put signs up so there's going to be 3 or 4 parents who are going to be they're going to be notified that their student's coming, so they're not driving up in their vehicle. They're going to be ready to kind of streamline that. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mark.
all right, thanks.
Christine, did you have something to mention?
Yeah, I was just in attendance of Carlton's, and they had approximately 100 students graduate. They did not do any speeches or anything, and it was about 2 hours. One thing that they did that was very helpful that I noticed as I was sitting on the sidewalk across from the parking lot was they had actually people like motioning and telling people to come up, okay, get out of the car. So there were designated people telling people where to pull their car up to get out, that kind of thing. So kind of directing that and such. So I don't know if that's the plan, to have designated people in different spots for families. But again, their graduation was over 2 hours, and they didn't do all the pomp and circumstance and speeches or nothing. That was just roll call and cars, kids getting out, etc.
Okay.
So something else to think about. Well, I guess we got to roll with it, with not knowing, never done it before.
Right. We potentially could
Yeah.
do the football field. We if we don't know by end of the day on Wednesday, we are going with this area. If we know Wednesday, we can switch it over to the football field. But I don't think it's realistic. If come Thursday they switch it, we can't turn on a dime. So I think Wednesday's our deadline for the football field.
Yeah, I think we're pot committed at this point.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for your input, everybody. 2021 school year, I had a long discussion today with the ISD superintendent, and we're still on hold, basically. we're all in the same boat. There has been something released by the National Institute of National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. They've released a planning guide for schools. You can find it on the internet. It's quite comprehensive. This is not Michigan's, but it just has some guidelines for schools around the country. Michigan is still up in the air. I will tell you this, our first intent is to go back face to face. Parents would want to know that, and we will be ready for hybrid or totally online. But our first intent is to be in the seats with some type of social distancing. I've had parents ask me about masks, and if I can't answer that question. There's talk of some recommendations that younger students don't be required to wear masks, but I think we wait and see whatever our governor is telling schools to do, and that's what we know. June 30th is the day that they're supposed to have released some guidance, and it could look different throughout the state if you're in a certain pandemic phase, but there's definitely some protocols that are going to have to be in place. So I don't have a ton of specifics other than we're going to be ready to adapt whatever the state tells us. As a district, we've positioned ourselves in technology, and I think we can do a model or look any other way that we can with some training, professional development, and that type of stuff. Any specific questions about that? I think you're hearing that pretty much. Some schools are coming out and actually putting out scenarios, but I don't know if that's productive, if that's not the way that it's going to look come August. Okay, facilities. We do have the asbestos work is ramping up. I believe that starts, Chris, you would know that date. I think it's in here. The 26th, the asbestos removal will begin. And that's an ongoing project, and hopefully we can get that done, get the tile put in before we have to put on, it's going to be a juggling act between the asbestos, new tile, moving furniture. We may have to put some furniture in our multi-purpose room from Central just so we can have an area for overload, because it's everything's coming out of those classrooms. It's quite an intensive process. Any questions on facilities? Computer devices. I've been working with Mr. Bosworth and Chris, and trying to, like I said, get together, make sure we have devices for next year. Been working with our PD committee on getting teachers more PD in Google Classroom and Seesaw, and talking to parents about what types of programs they like to see and what worked and what didn't work over the last 3 months. So we're also exploring some hotspots for checkout purposes if families need them for any type of online learning. So it's just, it's the way of the future. We have to be ready for it. And luckily we've had the opportunity to have a lot of technology from our general fund and from the Saginaw Chippewa tribe to where we have a lot of the Chromebooks and that type of thing. So just wanted to let you know that we are moving in that direction. Any questions about that? All right. CHIP grants. We were lucky enough to be notified that we will be receiving our CHIP grants, and that will be, Chris will be doing that this Friday, the 26th. Before we actually have the checks in hand, I would just say that our grants were in the amount of $84,301.48. So it was a very significant grant cycle, and we would like to extend our thanks to the Saginaw Chippewa tribe for their generosity. And at our next meeting, I'll go through a list of the items that we were awarded, but very, very generous. And I talked to Frank from the Chippewa tribe, and they said that they wanted to make sure that they got through that last cycle. Any questions about that? All right, moving right along. Board meeting proposed schedule. Attached is a schedule for 2021. if you have any thoughts or anything you want to discuss, it'll be on the consent agenda at the next meeting for approval. And our next meeting, we have a break in July, so just know that our meeting's the 27th, so we don't have another July meet. We only have one July meeting because of people's schedules, board members, administrators, so that, and normally there's not a ton of school business in July, so that allows us to have that one meeting in July. So I think that's everything I have. Unless you have any questions? Mute. Mark, you're muted.
Thanks. Mr. Furman.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. I really don't have a whole lot. I'm just trying to finish things up for the end of the school year. Working with Mrs. Shireen, get things set at Linwood and with the curriculum position. So I just want to say thank you again to the board, Mr. View, administrators, teachers, community, students, everyone for the opportunities I've had, and been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Mark. I know there's a lot of mutual feelings up here. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Reports from other administrative staff?
Mr. Kuchar, I do have one other thing, two things.
Okay.
I apologize for my wordiness, but I was contacted a while back, about 3 weeks ago, by a gentleman who owns property next to our Mount Forest property. He said he wanted to know if the board was interested in selling that property. I said I did not think that they were at this time, but I would ask. I can reach back out to him and say at this time, I mean, I know we're talking about a trail out there and doing some outdoor classroom type things, but I just didn't want to speak for the board and say that we didn't want to sell that, but it hasn't been the intent in the past. So what do you think, Mr. Kuchar?
That probably should go to site committee, I guess. I mean, we can look at the offer and assume what the value of that property is, but also look at our intended use in the future. You know, I know Mr. Penberthy was really working hard on that, and I don't want to undersell him or our students. Me being a Parks and Rec guy, that outdoor rec and giving our chance of kids to get outdoors and away from technology. I'd like to see the continued use and development of that, but I don't want to speak. That's just my own feeling. So I think getting into the site committee and trying to take a look at that. But I guess I'd welcome the comments from any of the other board members if you want to look at this or you want to just say no now. What's the rest of the board members?
I think from the budget side that we don't really need to look at selling it now. There's no urgent need, even with the proposed changes in the deficit next year. I still don't think we're at a point of eliminating assets that are valuable to the school. And, you know, we just put a driveway in, there's plans to do. So I would tell you at this time, there's no need financially to consider it. And, you know, if somebody else decides otherwise, I mean, we can talk about it, but there's no need financially to do it.
All right, and I see, Paul, you agree?
Yeah, well, I think it's an asset that we should hold on to. It's not going to go down in value, and when the time comes, we need to then get rid of it. But there's no reason to get rid of an asset like that right now.
Okay. Is the board pretty much in agreement that we just don't need to look at this offer at this point? Chris,
I
Linda,
agree
Jerry?
totally.
All right. All right, then I guess you can tell them we don't even need to go to site committee on it, that we're not interested in offers at this point, but thank you.
Yep, I will do that. And one last thing, I had an email come in just before the board meeting. I had an email from Mrs. Ginger Stoneback, I believe, Craft Bazaar for October 17th. It's an annual deal, it's a pretty big deal. Do we want to, and I don't know, I didn't get much. do we want to hold it, or do we want to potentially cancel it at this time and get refunds out and that type of thing?
I would
I don't
not,
see a
like,
need to cancel. Yeah, not
it's a
yet.
long way out. So
Yep.
I would hate to cancel it at this point. I think I think we need to wait at least for the next executive order of how we're going to operate school, and that may dictate what we do with that.
Okay. All right.
Just for information, my wife is a crafter, and basically all craft shows have been canceled until next spring.
Okay.
And we would have great attendance if it is on.
So ours will be really good.
I think it's because they have to
I know
book them.
people ask, you know, why we didn't do graduation yet, so we're not going to be on the bandwagon. We're going to do our own thing.
Yeah. I think we still have time yet to make that decision.
Yeah.
Don't you?
I would say at least till we know how we're going to run the school this fall.
Yeah.
I think it's premature to do anything since then. Let's keep hope alive.
Right.
I got it.
All right. Any other administrative staff like to be heard at this time? I see Mr. Sanford is on again, but probably going to stay silent. Sue or Kyle?
I'm all set for right now. Yep,
Okay.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. So I'll assume everybody else is good. Okay. Board committees. I know the budget committee met. Mr. Bauer.
Yeah, so the budget committee met on the 18th of June, and we ran through all of the budget changes that we needed to have addressed. As Chris and Mike have prepared for today's meeting on both budgets, they've considered a lot of the items that we had discussed in our projections. One of the things that we wanted to prepare for the full board was a worst case projection budget for 2021, and we feel that what we put in front of you demonstrates that worst case. We're hoping that the deficit that there can be eliminated once we get known funding and we can get some student count, that potentially we can get to the point where we can have a budget that's much more close to break even and not have to dip into the general fund. But at this time, it was in our best interest to prepare for this major cut and student loss, because we're not sure how parents are going to react and what those requirements may be to come back to school. So they might choose to homeschool and stuff. So it was a very hard budget to put out there in front of everybody right now. So we chose to go about it this way and really continue with the improvements that were in the budgets and continue to improve the home campus to the best of our ability. So that way, when students come back, it's clean, it looks really nice, and is really prepared to welcome everybody back to school. So they did a good job in getting everything together. Luckily, they've been working hard over the last decade there to get a balance that we can take these blurps with. We have protected all of our negotiated contracts. So everything that was committed is being handled unless it's voluntarily been offered up to see how the funding comes out. So there is a few people who, they know who they are, have offered to sacrifice any increases or others, and we appreciate that. And once we get a firm number, we can go back and honor any of those agreements that we had, hopefully with proper funding. So the other item discussed was the student lunch program. So we're looking to promote that across the middle school. And Chris has been active in trying to get that in place for the fall semester so that middle school will have the same option that elementary has had in 1920. So that plan has worked well, and she's done a good job with it and hopes to bring that across more of the district. So at the middle school, that would be the limit of it because the high school is open. So unless we close the campus, it looks to be that middle school is kind of a good spot to cut that off. So more to come on that, and that'll be presented once Chris can get all the answers to that. So it's a little bit different. This is always a busy month for budget and getting this together, but was a little busier this time with all the changes. So appreciate everybody's efforts, and I think that we're in a good spot to move forward. So thanks to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Nice job covering that, Mike. And I know Chris and Mr. View, you guys did a good job putting everything together and giving us the information we needed to help you. So thanks for everybody on that budget. It was definitely demanding this year. And with that, I guess I would welcome any of the board members. If you have any questions on either the 1920 budget or specifically the 2021 proposed budget, kind of ask now. And then Jay, if you could let me know if there's anybody from out in the public that has any comments regarding the budgets.
Still none.
Okay. With that then, any board members? Okay. With that, I would close the public hearing for the 2021 budget and move on to the non-consent agenda.
Okay,
Item A.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 1920 final amended budget as presented for general fund and food service.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and support for the 1920 budget, final budget. Is there any discussion on that item? Seeing none, we need a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Jared Klimick,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Item B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2021 budget as presented for general fund, food service, student activities, and levy the allowable tax millage to support the budget.
Support.
We have a motion and support again on the 2021 proposed budget. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, again, a roll call. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
We said that we will probably be making an early amendment as soon as we get the information. So just so everybody is aware, we're adopting a fairly large deficit, but as we stated, it's conservative and we'll amend it as soon as we get some good information.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Jared Klimick,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Again, motion passes. Thank you. Item C.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the administrator contract extension as presented.
Support.
Again, we have motion and support. Is there any discussion on that?
I just want to thank the administrators. They're working with us as we are undetermined here. So they've come to us with just an extension so we can get through the next school year and see how things are going, and appreciate the extension of this to get everything underway. So thanks for them.
Nope, I agree. Any other discussion? All right. If not, I need a roll call vote on that, please.
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Jared Klimick,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Thank you again. Motion carries. And the last item for the non-consent agenda, item D.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent contract extension as presented.
Support.
We have motion and support. Any discussion?
Just we had the discussion with Mr. View. He's been challenged through a number of things over his time here now as a superintendent, and he's willing to clock it out for some more years, and we appreciate that. So I think that right now we'd like to get this behind us, and right now we will negotiate any of the financial stuff as we move forward and understand what the state's going to do with us. So right now it's just to get an extension out there. rolling current expenditures into wage for the car allowance, and that's it.
All right, any further discussion? All right. Again, I need a roll call vote on that, Linda.
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Derek Klemick,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmville,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Again, motion passes. Thank you for your movement on this. Public comments. Jay, we got anybody adding on yet?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. I'll take discussion items from any of the board members.
Just a congratulations to central office. You guys have picked up a pretty good amount of help there. So good luck to you with your new secretary coming in. And I think that was a good hire. So congratulations. And look forward to working with her as you go forward here. So.
Thanks,
I
Mike.
agree.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. As cliche as it sounds, in these troubling times, you know, I've had numerous parents talk to me, and I'm glad to see the budget the way it came out. That budget committee looked at it for the worst case scenario, because a lot of parents are telling me if the governor comes down and says that the kids have to wear masks in school, they're going to be homeschooling. I know probably right now that it's more the parents are angry than anything, and they're just blowing off some steam. But I'm really glad that you guys looked at it in the worst case scenario instead of, you know, brushing it off.
Thanks, Paul. Any other comments? All right. I would like to, again, thank Mr. Furman for all his years of service and leadership. He's a great guy and was good for our district. I definitely wish him well. And also Donnie, and you know, we're losing a few administrators that have done well for us. And I'd also like to welcome the new people on and to this team. And they look like they'll fit pretty well. And then the last thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank Kyle, Dwayne, and Mike. They did a really good job with our early graduates. The parents were really pleased and impressed with the setup. We had the stage, I should say they had the stage all set up with flowers and the podium. We were all wearing our caps and gowns, and we had them sitting down front, and they felt like it was a true ceremony. It might have been 5 minutes, but it had as much pomp and circumstance as you can have without a choir and the salutatorian and all of that. So I got up and thanked and congratulated them and said they graduated, and we had them move their tassel, and the parents were really appreciative. So I think you guys did a really good job on that, and I'd like to thank you and commend you for that. I know the parents really appreciated it.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Or
A motion support, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.
We'll see you on the 27th. I'll keep in touch as far as how that's going to look as far as in person or virtual.
All right. Thanks,
Good
Mike.
night.
You guys have a good month.
Have a good evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye.